Welcome to part 3 of the Slambretta build, and we have a massive issue which is going to stop this thing even turning. So just fitting this horn cover, you can quickly see that these upper shock mounts I built, and the top of the shocks, in fact, when you turn the wheel, they're going to hit the horn cover there. You can see there the shock mount is pretty close to the horn cover on either side, so as soon as the wheel turns, that's going to hit there. But this was always going to be Mark 1 of the design. These are really roughly cut temporary mounts. And I think by just putting a tape measure up here, we'll only need to come down 50 or 60 mil. And we've got a good 50 or 60 mil at the bottom of the shock easily. I might even redo these links so they come out more horizontal and then kick up a bit like the original links. So we just need to move this whole setup here with these shocks down 50 or 60 mil. So I think that is the next job to do, because obviously you want the thing to turn. I mean, the mudguard is going to be another issue, but let's get the thing at least being able to turn corners, which would be nice. I'll cut the brackets off here, taking the shocks off. I'll fully compress this shock, and I've been staring at it for a little while now, and here's my latest thoughts. I'm going to unbolt this from the hub. This is kind of supported down on these bits of wood, and just drop the links down, and I'll probably just cut these off. I might have to get a slightly longer piece of box section then to bring it back up to here, but yeah, it's all mock-up at the moment. I think that hopefully then will give me enough room. I mean, I'm going to have to modify whatever mudguards a lot, because the tyre at the moment sticks out the top of the mudguard. But I'm thinking about a bit like the chrome embellishers, maybe putting like a bubble on top of the mudguard there. I think it might look quite nice, or widening it or something, but we'll worry about that later. Just brought you in a little bit closer. You may see what I'm trying to do now. I just need to position this bracket here, so when the forks turn, I mean, that's pretty extreme turning, but it just needs to clear there, maybe just a tiny bit extra for the mudguard there. So around that position is great. So when it swings back to center, yeah, you can see there's loads there, and there's no issues this way because it actually gets further away. So that's going to be fine going that way. As I'm sure you know, we're super high tech here at Cobweb Garage. So I've used CAD, yep, cardboard aided design, and I've made this little mock-up bracket that will sit there on the fork, and I need to make another one for the other side, of course, but let's give this one a go. The hole for the bolt is going to be there. Here's a little bracket I just made up. Oh, I actually made two of them. So one of them is there, I've just bolted it to the top of the shock, and yeah, it fits nicely around there. What I'll do, if this all works out and I don't have to move it again, I can just cut that slightly more of a rake down there to meet the fork. But I'm much happier with these brackets than what I had before. They're much shorter, and you know, it just keeps the whole thing a bit more compact. I have got it at a slight angle at the moment. I can adjust that, but I'm slightly worried about when that link comes down, this whole thing might get closer to the fork there and even touch. But anyway, I think the top is good. That's in a good position. Yeah, I'm going to put a couple of tack welds on there. Do the same for the other side as well, and just see how that all looks. Okay, there's a lot going on here, but I've actually cut that off twice, that tack weld, and repositioned it. I think I've got it now. Nothing on these forks is perfect, but I put this square across the bottom there, and I just measured up from the bottom of that to the bottom of the bracket, both sides. That matches. Going across, got about 160 mil, and then if you look at that hole in the forks is bang on in the middle. Looks pretty good from the side as well. They seem to match. Kind of looked from all angles. So I'm pretty happy. They're pretty much square. I'm just going to throw on a couple more tacks. Then I'll remove this all thread, and yeah, we'll start putting the links and everything back together. Pretty happy with that. These look much more in proportion than the massive things that were on there before. Has anyone else out there ever done a job and you get to the end or near the end and then you think of a better way of doing it? I think what I'm going to do is actually take a load of measurements and draw up what I'm thinking these links are going to look like, because at some point I'm going to need to make a drawing of them anyway, probably, to have these links, you know, machined out of solid metal. So I think I'm going to take the measurements between the forks and the width of the hub and just do a few. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I just want to make sure the new idea is going to work before I spend hours fabricating something that isn't going to work. So that is the next job. Took the pin, I can't remember what you call this thing, out the centre of the hub. This is the hub I'm going to be using, disc brake, internal disc brake hub. And what I did is I just marked the hub with a Sharpie pen there, pulled it out, and I've measured there. And it looks to me like that's 125 mil. I think I read somewhere on the internet that the distance is 130. So we're about there. The space between the links is 155 mil. So that all tells me that the standard links here dip in 15 mil on each side, obviously, to pick up the hub, and just putting my tape measure on there, that looks about right. So I'm pretty pleased with that. 15 mil actually works out amazingly, because these mock-up pieces of metal I've been using to build my links are 15 mil. So I can come out of the forks, and basically I'm going to mock something up now where I just take one piece of metal and just weld it to the inside of the other. That'll give me the 15 mil offset I need, and then that should pick up the hub perfectly. So I'm really pleased with that. Take it into my house now and just draw these out to scale, these links, just so I get the idea in my head of what it's going to be. not sure if this is going to make sense to anyone but me, but this is the link side view. So from the side it will come out the fork and kink up. There'll be a bracket there to take the bottom of the shock, and the view from above, this is the forks here, so they'll come out of the forks here and actually step in. So this step will be here, the step will continue on the same plane as the part inside the fork, and then it will have a kink there. So there'll be like 3 junctions in effect. There'll be a step in there and a kink up there, but like I say, once I finalise this, I'm hoping to get that all machined out of one piece of metal. This is where I've got to so far. I've made up these bits. So here's the dog leg I was talking about, and that allows for that shock to be kept as far in as possible. So that's going to go in there, and then these bits are going to kick up and pick up the hub. But I need to make sure obviously these are exactly the same both sides. So I think I'm going to install these lower bits. At the moment obviously the forks can twist and everything, so I'll get different measurements, but if I can install these lower parts of the link and then yeah, just see if we can get an accurate measurement for both sides, and I'm just going to drill a hole straight through there and connect up to the hub that way. Just saw me welding these bad boys up, and obviously I clamped them together so these angles match perfectly. I put bolts through the hole there and the hole there on the welding table. I'm really happy with that. Next thing I need to do now is to get this bracket for the shock. So I'm going to bolt the shock back on there and see where it comes to. Should be a nice little bracket on the bottom. Easy enough to do. So let's get that done, and on both sides, and we can actually put these shocks on both sides as well. So I've got all these bolted up now. So much happier with the way that's all tucked in. Looks so much neater. If you remember before, the brackets were sticking way up here. These are going to be great. I can triangulate them in if needed. I'm thinking I may even run a bar across the top there. Could weld it to this part of the forks here to make it right super strong. The only thing I would say is that the wheel isn't perfectly straight. I'm not sure if you can see that. I was trying to be as accurate as I could welding up these links, but they are just for mock-up, and you know, it's just a bit of crappy box section, and I've welded those to the original part which holds the bushing, etc. It's all a bit wonky, and I think that's just all exaggerated, so the wheel isn't perfectly straight. What I need to do, and if anyone knows anyone that can help me out there, I want to get something 3D printed. It needs to be drawn up properly using my drawing that I made and taking some measurements off these, and get something actually 3D printed. And what I'm thinking you can do is obviously you put one in and you just flip it to make the reverse for the other side, so they're absolutely identical. These two ones I've made are definitely not identical, so that's just pushing the wheel out a little bit. But if I can get something 3D printed to start with, I think I'll be able to use that drawing then to get something properly machined out of metal. Anyway, I'm really pleased of how that's looking. The horn cover and this mudguard are going to need trimming, but I just want to show you something with this horn cover. If you watch the episode where I was collecting parts, you'll remember the horn cover and the headset came from India, and it's one of those kits where you can convert a Series 2 to a Series 1, and I'll just show you now, but the horn cover is just completely skew whiff. So let's have a look at that. So I've got the horn cover here just on my welding table, and I've already started twisting this a bit more into shape, but I'm not sure if you can tell. So this is a lot better than it was, but these are completely not square. This whole thing is bent really badly. I'm just putting this crowbar in and just twisting the thing back, trying to get it roughly into shape. I mean, I'm kind of doubting whether this thing's even going to be usable because it's so bad. Even the badge there is not square. Yeah, it's super bad. So I am on the lookout for a nice Series 1 horn cover, but this one would be good for mock-up, and when I trim it, you know, I can make all mistakes basically on this one. If I basically line up two of the holes on here, the other two holes are way out. I'm going to, try and get this a bit more into shape. So let's give that a go. These two aren't too bad now, but this one is really over here. Oh cool, I think that's happening. Yeah, I think that's working. A little bit more. Right, I'm going to try that on the mudguard again. And also you can sort of, yeah, it's looking way better. Right, so we've got three now. These two and this one line up pretty much, but this one is nowhere to be seen. It's tucked in there, so I'm just going to try and get this one out a bit more. I think it's just this bit here is too narrow. It needs to be spread out slightly there, so I'm going to see if I can do that somehow. I'll put this bit of block of wood in here, just see if I can. Oh, I think that's helped. slightly worried about this metal cracking, but I think I'm going to pack this out and just squeeze these two in. I'm just worried if I squeeze these two there, it's just going to bring it in at that point. So let me just get a quick shim. Right, I think we can live with that. There we go, freshly bashed into shape horn cover. Now I think I'm going to try and fit this before I mess around with the mudguard, and you'll see my problem with this wheel coming so far up. It's basically just 5mm off touching the forks there, but I want it this low, you know, I don't want to raise the thing anymore. This is how I want it, so I need to make this fit, and at the moment, if I try and fit it like that, you can see it's hitting the tyre there, and miles away. I can sort of fit it like that, and it needs to come down, what, probably 30 or 40mm it needs to come, hold on, yeah, 30 or 40mm it needs to come down. So I think I'm just going to do a nice curve and just cut the front of this horn cover there, and that should just allow it to drop down and sit into position. That will give me an idea as well then of what I need to trim out of the mudguard to make that fit. I think I'm just going to have to slice that mudguard right down the middle, but let's get this horn cover fitted first and we'll go from there. That really did take way longer than it should have. The fitment of that horn cover is just appalling. It just wouldn't line up with the leg shields. To be honest, the leg shields are actually battered as well. So I've just fought for about half an hour to try and just put 4 bolts in that thing to build it up, and to check that there's a gap between that and the tyre. So let's have a quick look. There you go. Just a few mil of clearance there. I've actually got this thing just cable tied at the top because obviously this being series 1 and the frame is series 2, there's nothing at the top here to bolt the leg shields and horn cover to. I need to weld on a couple of brackets, so for now, yeah, just got it cable tied. But I'm pretty pleased that has only taken out a slight part of that horn cover. The fixings for the mudguard are still intact. This fixing here is still intact for this little grill. I mean, that thing is completely wonky as well. You can see what I mean about this badge as well. It's completely wonky, and the headlight is as well, but I think that just needs twisting around. I really want to get another one of these, but for now this is allowing me to mock it up. I really want to take the paint off these leg shields as well. I think it's had a puller of some kind to get a dent out there, but it's got about 10mm of filler. Anyway, depending on the final finish of this thing, just need to proceed and get this all mocked up. Well, I'm really pleased to get this horn cover on, although I did struggle with it. The fitment is terrible, and you can clearly see there's loads of room that these new brackets are not going to hit the horn cover. So yeah, we'll actually be able to turn the wheel now. I mean, when it's aired down like that, there'll be an issue with this tyre hitting, but it's only ever going to get aired completely down when the thing's stationary. I did try airing it up and it works fine. However, I don't know if you remember from previous episode, I put this adapter, which is a 1/4 inch adapter, to the smallest they had, which is 532s, I think. But this line is even smaller than that. If there's anyone that's fitted these kind of shocks to a Harley or anything like that, if you can advise me what size that is, because I just can't find anything smaller than a 532, and that has just popped out. So I mean, I just wedged it in there with some plumber's tape before, but I need to get something, yeah, more permanent. So yeah, any advice on what size line that is for these motorbike shocks, air shocks? Next time I want to have a go at fitting the mudguard. However, the mounting point here for the front mudguard is not accessible at the moment because this frame I built in a previous episode is in the way, and I want to move that back. I want to sort of hide it behind these leg shields anyway, but to do that I need to fit the rear brake pedal, just see how much clearance I got. So there's a whole chain of things that need to happen. It means I'm going to have to take off these leg shields and the horn cover, etc. But that'll be for the next episode. So yeah, I just want to thank everyone for watching. I'm really pleased with the progress. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We do have merchandise for sale as well, which we ship all around the world. Got some t-shirts with the Cobweb Garage logo on. Put the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.